All right, good afternoon, everyone. How's everybody doing?
Decent.
Decent? Decent? All right, so I want to talk about several things today. Pass these out. So, there is an extra credit opportunity in Canvas that's been there for a while. This is kind of your last opportunity, because if you need some extra credit, you would need to get your account set up in Coursera like tomorrow. It's not going to be just a one-night thing that you can do if you need some extra credit. But it's up to 30 points of extra credit if you complete a module in Coursera that is defined in there. Can anybody tell me? What is Coursera? Anybody know? Yeah.
It's a website that can help you get online, not degree plans, but certification.
Yeah. So why might that be important? Why might I be willing to give you some extra credit for that? Why might this benefit you?
Some jobs like them have extra skills because it shows you put in the time and the effort to learn whatever that certification is.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
It encourages us to use tools outside of class.
Okay. Very good. Shows lifelong learning commitments. Yeah. Anything else? So I'm going to tell you what my advisor told me when I was going to college back in 1991, before any of you were born. Right? And what he told me at the time was, you can get a 4-year degree, and you can be one of the several million people who also are going to get a 4-year degree that year. It was true back then, it is true today. Depending on the career that you all choose, or whatever it is that you all choose to do, there are going to be things that employers, graduate schools, professional schools, other things are going to be looking at to set you apart. And one of those things that you can do is something like a Coursera, where on your own you can get certified to do something. Why is a certification, why would that have value in addition to your degree? What does a certification mean?
It means you're qualified.
It means you're qualified. Okay? It means you're qualified. What else does it mean? You walk up to somebody and you say, I've got a BS in chemistry or a BS in biochemistry. What does that mean to them?
You took the classes.
You took the classes. Okay? Do I know you can do very well in those classes? Do I know that you can actually get in the lab and do anything? Not in and of itself, right? But what does a certification mean? It shows that you've been able to apply the skills, right? Not only did you learn something and put it in your mind. I learn all kinds of things all the time. Doesn't mean I can do them. I learned how to rebuild a motor the other day by watching some YouTube videos. I am not going to pull the motor out of my truck and try to rebuild it tomorrow. I don't have the tools. I don't have the experience. I don't have a lot of different things. I understand a little bit about it now, but I'm not willing to do that, right? But I might go to a certified mechanic and say, I need you to trick out my truck and put in a little more horsepower behind the motor or whatever and have them do it, right? But that's who I would go to. So this kind of stuff sets you apart. These kinds of micro-credentials, as we're calling them these days, are things that you can use in any number of applications in moving forward. And it definitely shows initiative that you're willing to learn on your own, and it shows that you can actually do something. And the one that I picked on data science, I think aligns with our majors in general, right? Everybody that I've talked to when they say, well, I'm a scientist, therefore I know data. What's the difference between what we do as scientists and what data scientists do? Anybody have any ideas? Any thoughts? How many of you are in a laboratory right now? Raise your hand. How much data do you all deal with?
The one we do in class.
The one you do in class? How much is that? Very little? Is that what you said? Okay, so you might have a page or two with some data. And you might plot that data, right? And how many points might be on your plot? Maybe 10. Okay, that's not a bad number. Does that make you a data scientist? Not at all. So the difference between a scientist, somebody who does what we do all the time, and a data scientist is like night and day. All right? How many variables do you typically deal with in a laboratory?
One.
Maybe one or a couple, right? You might be taking a measurement of something at different temperatures or whatever, and you're plotting that out with, so you've got some known dependent and some independent, right? And you're plotting it out, and you're making a case for cause and effect, maybe, right? Now imagine having a data set that is hundreds of thousands of values, okay? That's the difference. But all fields, I don't care what you go into, I don't care if you go into medicine, I don't care if you go to graduate school, I don't care if you go into the pharmaceutical industry, I don't care if you go into the military, I don't care. You're going to have to deal with big data, either directly or indirectly. And having some understanding, I don't expect you all to be data scientists. I'm certainly not a data scientist. But I can tell you as I transitioned from my role as a professor into administration, I went from here where I was dealing with a handful of students and their data and helping advise students and helping them. And now I'm dealing with something at the university. It went up exponentially the amount of data that I had to deal with, right? And so understanding something about data tools will be helpful to you. And that's why I picked the one that I picked. And I think even if you do it for extra credit or not, I would encourage each and every one of you to do something in Coursera along the lines of data science, whether it be the IBM class, whether it be the Google class, whether it be whatever, because you will be using those tools in the future more than I think you have an appreciation for right now. Right now, you are being manipulated by those tools. And in the future, your employer are going to want you to manipulate others by those tools. And I don't mean that in a negative way. But there are algorithms right now that are feeding you information on your social media. There are algorithms that are determining, based on what you do, about what ads you get to see, what ads you do not see. And we can argue and debate the pros and cons of that, right? But that's data science. Data science is controlling that. And at some point, you will be employed by a pharmaceutical company, or you will be employed by a hospital, or you will be employed in a military situation, or whatever the case may be, and you're going to be faced with a large set, relatively speaking, of data that you're going to have to make sense of at some point. Your curriculum in chemistry, biochemistry, will not prepare you for that. Your curriculum, if you decide to change your major to history or to English or to whatever, will not prepare you for that. In fact, right now at this institution, we have no curriculum other than what Coursera is offering that can prepare you for that. Now that will change over time, okay? And it will change at many other institutions over time. We will start to integrate these tools more into our curriculum, right? And I hope we do that faster rather than slower. But I want you all to have a leg up. So I think getting started into some data science will be valuable to you. Now, the Coursera Career Academy is free to you. You do not have to pay for it. It is part of your tuition dollars that you are currently paying. I would encourage you over time to get as many of those credentials, micro-credentials, as you care to put on your resume. Okay, I think that it will set you apart. But if you're doing this for credit in this class, for extra credit, I'm giving up to 30 points. So if you've missed a lecture, if you've not turned in a couple of assignments, this is your opportunity to do something extra to get caught up a little bit, okay? Now, the big difference between high school and college, back in the day, you may have asked your teachers for extra credit and they gave you something extra means extra to me, right? And so you've got to be, if you want extra credit, you've got to be willing to do extra work. And so this is not something that you can do overnight, right? So if you want this extra credit, I encourage you to go to this page, request the account. Mr. Willis or Ms. Trun will actually, or Dr. Trun will actually give you an account. You will then have that account forever. Fill out what you need to do, turn it in to me. I'll give you the extra credit for that. Okay? And then I hope you continue to play and use it as a sandbox as you want to learn more things, not just data science. There's other things in there as well that I think could be beneficial to you and may even be beneficial to you in your current jobs that you're doing while you're in school. Any questions about any of that? Anybody thinking about doing this one? Okay, it's worth thinking about. You don't have a lot of time. It's due October 31st, which is not this Friday, but next Friday, so Halloween. So keep that in mind. And I will not accept late turn-ins on this one. So keep that in mind as well. All right, so this week I had an interview with former Golden Eagle. Anybody want to tell me a little bit about her? What was her name?
Jessica Flynn.
Jessica Flynn. What do we know about Jessica? Other than the pictures doesn't do justice here. What do we know about Jessica? Anything special about Jessica? Yeah.
She didn't like chemistry when she was first in high school.
When she was first in high school, she didn't like chemistry? That's true. Yeah, she did not. Grew on her though, didn't it? Yeah. What else do we know about Jessica? Which major was she?
Chemistry.
She was a chemistry major. That's right. She was the chemistry major, ACS certified chemistry major. What else do we know about her? She did research with me. I'll tell you that. Right? I think that, yeah. But one of the reasons why I selected to interview her was because I had a long-standing professional relationship with her over the years. Anybody know about how much research she did?
She started her freshman year.
She started very early. Yeah, so she started basically the second semester of her freshman year. She was very interested in getting started in on research. She was one of those kind of students that I would say she likes to do. She was very good at the theoretical stuff. She was one that really liked to do the work as well. Yeah.
About that, like, I see all these people on, in these interviews, they start their research early. How do you do that? Because my advisor told me that I'm not supposed to start research until like later on, like junior year.
Yeah, well, your advisor is incorrect in that statement. That is what is required of you to graduate. You have to do some research. And so I can understand why your advisor would say that. But there is nothing that forbids you from getting started early, okay? And I would say if you want to be competitive for some national fellowships, I'm actually going to try to get the National Competitive Fellowships and Scholarships Office in here to talk to you all while I'm out. You got to get started early. Some of the nationally competitive fellowships are like the Goldwater, the Truman, those types of things. If you want to hold those types of scholarships or fellowships, you want to be competitive for those, you've got to have some research under your belt before you apply. And so you've got to actually get started early. But even if you're not interested in those, getting started early has a lot of advantages. So next week we have a block party, I believe, do we not? And we are going to have people from the department putting up posters. And one of the things I'm going to want you to do is go around and see the different posters and talk to different faculty and different graduate students. This is how you would begin the process of determining whether or not you wanted to get involved in research early. So you may come up to somebody's poster and they may be talking about work that they've done with another undergraduate or graduate student in the past. And you might go, well, that's interesting. How do I get involved with that? Right? You start that conversation. Now, faculty will take students at different points Some faculty like to take students when they're a little older, so to speak, and some would, like myself, will take people earlier. It just depends. Depends on the kind of work that they do. And whether or not how much they're willing to devote to training you in the laboratory. I've always been willing to take interested students earlier. I will not take a student who is not interested in doing work, regardless. I mean, if you come to me and you say, I just need to find somebody to do work with, I'm not going to be interested in that. If you're interested in doing the work, if it's the last semester, if it's next semester, I'm always interested in having those kinds of conversations. So, yes, Jessica got started very early. What else do we know about that? How did that benefit her? Yeah.
It kind of gave her a leg up compared to other students. Like when she went abroad and stuff like that, because they got started later than her.
That's right. So she actually not only got started in research early here, but she actually did 2 REUs, research experiences for undergraduates. One summer she spent in North Dakota, working with a gentleman that I know, Mukun Sibi, and he paid her to come up and work with him for a summer. She earned, I don't remember how much it was, probably $5,000 or $6,000, something like that, to spend time in his lab over the summer, where she worked on some chemistry projects for him. And then she went to the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, which is one of the top chemistry programs in the nation, and actually worked for Scott Denmark, who's a very famous organic chemist, very intense organic chemist. And she worked with him for one summer and got to work on some really cool projects there as well. What else do we know about Jessica? I would say she couldn't have done that if she hadn't gotten started in research early. It would have been, not that she couldn't have done an REU, but to be for those types of competitive ones takes a little bit extra. What else do we know? Did she win any awards? Probably, since I'm asking about it, right? Anybody remember what award she won? She was a Goldwater Scholar. So she had that fellowship. She was also a finalist for the Truman, I believe. I don't believe she got the Truman, but she was a finalist for the Truman. And then she actually was an NSF pre-doctoral fellow, meaning that the National Science Foundation gave her money to go to Vanderbilt and study there for a couple of years, where she ultimately got her master's degree and decided to get a job. Anybody know anything about the work that she does? Or did, at least at the time that I interviewed her? Yeah.
She works in the paper industry.
She does. She works for, I believe it was Georgia Pacific at the time. She may have switched jobs since then. But she was interested in things that made paper, the properties of paper that we all like. I mean, if you think about a tree, you think about sawdust, it doesn't look like that would be very useful, right? And so there's a lot of chemistry that goes on that converts that sawdust into the paper that you all use, or the paper products that you use, the cups that you might use, the paper utensils that you might use. There's a lot of chemistry that has to go in to that. And so she worked on things that made paper products useful. The sawdust that went into making my paper product that I handed out to all of you, not very useful. And so that all has to be transformed and converted, and chemistry's what does that for us. So Jessica was definitely one of those students who went on and did great things. But I want to transition from that just a bit to talking about the reading that we had, which was the PhD trap. And so there's a reason why I included her with all of her successes, and then this reading on the PhD trap. What can you tell me about the reading on the PhD trap? Yeah.
It's said that in some cases, yes, it can be helpful, but there's also some where the same, like there's people who progress faster or ended up making the same amount of money in just a little bit like more time,
Mm-hmm.
but they never got their PhD, but they're doing the same work.
Yeah. So if you're thinking about graduate school, this is something that, and I encourage you all to think about graduate school. It's an option. And when I was younger, and Jessica came to me, I was still an assistant professor at the time. And I do actually feel a little guilty, because at that time I was probably over-encouraging Jessica to go and get a PhD. She was one of the brightest students I've ever worked with. I've worked with a lot of bright students, but she is definitely at the top, okay? And so I was sitting there going, well, of course you need to go get a PhD. I was saying that all the time. She had the capability of doing it. She won all these awards. She won an NSF pre-doctoral fellowship. She went off to Vanderbilt, did very well, and ultimately mastered out, and, as we say, and went and got a job. She did not want what the career was going to be for being a PhD. What do PhDs typically do? What do people like me typically do? What am I doing right now? We teach and we do research. That's what we typically do. Are there industries that want PhDs? Absolutely. You can be in the chemical industry, they do seek out PhDs. There is a reason to get a PhD and go into industry, especially if you're thinking about going into pharmaceuticals, if you're thinking about going into high-level management, for example. A PhD can help you get that type of position, okay? But it's not for everybody, right? You've got to want to do the PhD. So if you're thinking about just doing a PhD because somebody like me said, oh, you're really smart, you should get a PhD, there's a lot of really smart people in the world. We're not rare, okay? But you've really got to want to do the PhD. You've got to want to do it for the right reasons. And so I pieced these two together because I think had I been more mature at the time and listened to what Jessica was really trying to tell me about what she wanted out of life, I probably wouldn't have pushed towards the PhD. I think the master's turned out to be the right choice for her. It gave her the credentials that she needed to be in managerial level positions in an industry where she knows what she's going to do every day. She did not want to go to work every day and have to think about raising money and paying graduate students and teaching classes and doing service for the community and for the university. She determined that having a career in academia just was not for her. And so the master's turned out to be a perfect choice for her. Just like was it last week or the week before when y'all listened to Mr. Knowles, right? He ended up getting a bachelor's degree and he's done very well, right? You do not necessarily have to have a graduate degree to go on and do well. And in fact, you can make more money sometimes than people with PhDs. It's just, some of that's a luck of the draw, right? Some of it just happens to be where you're at and what you're doing and how much your skills are in demand, right? And so it's not always about the money. I knew that I wanted to be this. I wanted to teach. I wanted to do some research. I wanted to be able to go into a lab and play. And that's what I do. I go in and I ask questions and I play and I test and I prompt. And if that sings to you, you need a PhD. If being a science manager at Merck or at Johnson & Johnson or at Eli Lilly sings to you, you probably need a PhD, okay? If that is not what you want, you do not need a PhD, okay? You can get away with having a bachelor's degree or maybe a master's degree. If you want to move up into middle management, a master's degree is perfectly fine. And sometimes people will get a chemistry bachelor's degree or a biochemistry bachelor's degree and then go get an MBA and go work in industry and be a manager of people who do science, okay? So there's lots of options that are out there. And so what you're going to do as you move through this, every faculty member that you come into contact with will have some type of advanced PhD degree, okay? Or they'll have a master's degree if they're teaching track faculty. They may have a master's degree. And all of them are going to share with you their experience. That doesn't necessarily mean that has to be your experience, right? If you came and talked to me about jobs and job opportunities, I would talk very enthusiastic about what I do because I love what I do, right? I'm biased in that regard. But that doesn't mean that that's what you want necessarily. So I want you all to know that there is this PhD trap that some students fall into. And sometimes it's people like me's fault because we will kind of push in that direction because we think everybody has to be, well, you like science, you gotta get a PhD, right? Well, no, you don't have to get a PhD, right? What other traps might there be that some of you might be thinking about, right? What other kind of traps can we fall in?
Dead.
Huh?
I hate you.
What's that?
He's great.
Dead.
Debt? Debt is definitely a trap, but that's not what I'm worrying about here. The debt trap.
Saying that you need to go to graduate school.
Okay, that you need to go to graduate school at all, right? That's a trap too. What else? I would also say medical school, or dental school, or law school, because mom or dad went that route, or you got an uncle that went that route, or an aunt that went that route, or you want to be involved in medicine, and you know the way you can think of doing that is by going to medical school, right?
Typically, any degree that you feel obligated in getting into, but not actually passionate for.
Okay. So what do you mean by passionate for?
Like, say you wanted to really get, you feel obligated to get into, spectroscopy.
Okay.
But like as you go through it, you feel like it isn't for you, but you feel like you're stuck in it because you went down that path,
Mm-hmm.
and you feel like you can't go back, so you keep going into it, and you're doing worse and worse. When in reality, you should have just gone back and reevaluated.
At some point, sometimes we have to decide to pivot, right, and maybe take a different direction. That's certainly true. I always, it's tough for me to talk to people that come to me and talk about, I don't really know what I want to do. That's hard for me to talk with because while I have some sympathy and compassion for that, it's not my experience. I always knew I wanted to be a scientist. Since as far back as I can go, I always knew I wanted to be a scientist. I was always curious. I was always tearing my toys apart. I was always building a computer. I was always playing with test tubes. I was always taking the extra science class in high school. I just knew I liked that kind of work, right? So it was something that I grew into. Now, you can talk to my wife and get a very different experience. She started off, she wanted to be a nurse anesthetist. She had no idea that she wanted to do anything STEM related. She just wanted to go off and make a bunch of money being a nurse anesthetist. And then she took a chemistry class. And she said, this is pretty cool. I want to kind of do this. And she started off thinking, well, I might want to go into industry. And then she met me, and we got married, and we had kids, and things evolved, right? Just how life works sometimes, okay? What else might be a trap? Yeah. College in general might be a trap, yeah. Got nothing better to do, right? So I'll go to college. That could be a trap. And that could get you into the debt trap, right? You can certainly fall into debt that way. Now, do I think college is a good return on investment? On average, I would say it's an excellent investment, even if you're not sure about what you want to do, because you can take your degree, you can take your degree with chemistry or biochemistry or medicinal pharmaceutical chemistry, and you can go in so many directions. You really can. You're going to get skills that will take you in a lot of different directions. And if you enhance those skills with things like Coursera, things and credentials, you can even improve your opportunities in a lot of other ways. I know several people that I was at various points in my education and my postdoctoral times, people who were very good chemists that today don't touch a chemical or a test tube and are working in the industry and making a lot more money than I make because they had other skill sets that they were able to capitalize on. I've got a friend who was a programmer before we called it data science. He learned how to program and do that kind of stuff. He's a chemist, got a PhD, and now he works at a pharmaceutical company analyzing data on clinical trials. Doesn't touch a test tube, but he has to talk to chemists, he has to talk to biologists, he has to do that kind of work. Makes a lot of money at it, okay? And so found his passion in that regard. It was one of the things that I kind of worried about, to be honest with you, with my oldest daughter. When she went off to college, she swore up and down she would not do chemistry. I did not push chemistry, at least I didn't feel like I was pushing chemistry. I don't think my wife was pushing chemistry. She said she was going to go and do math. We said, that's fine, do whatever you want. And then she took a chemistry class. And so then she added chemistry as her second major. And at first it was, well, I'm just going to do chemistry because it's kind of interesting. Then she ended up going to graduate school. She's got her PhD, and now she's working at the University of Chicago as a postdoctoral associate, working on some really cool things. And so, you just never know where you're going to end up. But don't feel like you have to go one particular path. Many of you right now are thinking, I'm going to go to medical school. I guarantee you, by the time you get to be a senior, over half of you will have either changed your mind about that or will be questioning your decision to do so. It's just going to, it's what happens, okay? But you will be getting a degree in a major that will allow you the flexibility to make those choices. You can go straight into medical school if you get accepted. You can go to law school. You can get a job. You can do any number of things. So I just want you all to keep in mind this idea of traps, things that we get stuck into. I don't want you to feel like you're trapped into anything. And I feel like I pushed Jessica a little bit in that direction, and I kind of felt guilty about that later on in life after she kind of told me really what she was looking for in life. But she was very, very intelligent, still is very, very intelligent, I should say. And she knew at a certain point in her graduate studies, it's time for me to pivot and do something different. So she got a master's degree and did some other things. So I want you all to keep that in mind as you think about your career trajectory, because it will change as time goes on. I never thought I would be a senior associate provost. I did not go to college and go to be a PhD and do my postdoc to be an administrator. But I pivoted, right? You're all going to pivot at some point. Anything anybody would like to add about that? Any thoughts? Clear as mud? All right. Now I want to talk about something that we're certainly not going to watch the short video that I had. You all can watch that. But I do want to spend a little bit of time talking about your persona on social media, the time that you spend on social media. It's something that I've become more passionate about as time has gone on. I am not anti-social media. I am certainly on Facebook. I have certainly watched TikToks. I certainly am on YouTube and do those types of things. But what are some of the dangers that you all see for you all in social media? Pardon?
Mental health.
Mental health? Do you have anything else? Yeah?
Digital footprint.
Digital footprint? Okay, very good. What else? Yeah.
Just the amount of time that you spend on it.
Oh, yes, the amount of time.
To follow the leader kind of thing.
Follow the leader. Okay. Follow the leader can take you off a cliff.
Misinformation.
Misinformation. Disinformation. Is there a difference between misinformation and disinformation? Is there a difference between something that's not true and a lie? If I tell you something that's not true, did that mean that I lied to you?
No.
because maybe you thought.
Yeah. Lying has an intention to it, doesn't it? In my view, right? Right? So if I'm lying to you, I'm trying to persuade you one way or another, right? I may say something that's totally inaccurate today, and I probably will. I mean, that happens. It does not mean I'm a liar, right? It has a different meaning. What else about social media? I am very thankful to whatever I need to be thankful to that I was raised in a time that it didn't exist. I would hate to think what my life would have been like if my life had been recorded. And I think that's something you all need to think very carefully about. I'm going to tell you a little secret. We all think, and rightly so, because this is the First Amendment of the Constitution, that we have the freedom of speech. And usually we stop there. I have the freedom of speech. That does not mean that you have the freedom from any responsibilities associated with that speech. That's something that I don't think people really appreciate. And people will say, well, I can post that. freedom of speech. Absolutely you can. You can. But that does not mean that there are no consequences to what you have done, right? Or what you have posted or what you have shared. And so I just want you all to know that you need to start thinking about a professional presentation of yourselves on social media. You need to be careful about what you post on social media. I can tell you, and it is perfectly legal, this is not an illegal thing. Anytime I get a job application, one of the first things I do is I just type in the Google machine the name, and I try to see what pops up. Perfectly legal. You are posting it on social media, it is your representation. And so when I see certain things, it causes me pause. Right? I'm hiring somebody that's going to represent my department. Right? Do I have a right to do that? Absolutely, I have a right to do that. Right? Did you have a right to post what you wanted to post? Absolutely, you had a right to post. But there is a consequence to that, right? So what are some of the things that typically get posted now that you think probably should not be posted?
Drugs and alcohol.
Drugs and alcohol.
Using slurs or hating on minorities.
Slurs and hate speech. Guns. Do you have one over here? Is our bid set? Okay. What else?
Salacious materials.
Salacious materials. Okay. It's so easy to post these days, right? Right? You're in a crowd, you pop a picture, post it to Instagram, TikTok, whatever. I mean, whether it's a picture or video, right? What happens to that when we do that? Does it just go away?
Never.
Even if you take it down, did it go away? Did not go away. Somebody's downloaded it, somebody's copied it, somebody saved it. Next thing you know, you're running for Congress and somebody got all these things on you that you forgot about when you were 18, 19 years old, right? None of that exists for me. Thank goodness. I was young once, okay? And I really do feel for you all in that regard because you all are part of the digital, you don't know any different. How many people in here remember a time when there wasn't a smartphone? I remember flip phones. I thought they were cool because I remember phones that actually you had to plug into a wall. And then I remember phones that you actually had to do this to, right? You all don't remember any of that because it's part of you now, right? It's like television was for me. I mean, I don't know a time without television. My parents know a time without television. My grandparents know a time without television. So we grow up with these technologies and we think that they become part of us, right? So part of the assignment today that you're going to have is a reflection on your use of social media, your use on your persona, your brand. You all have a brand. And you need to start protecting that brand. Because when you lose your credibility in that, you know how hard that is to get back? I mean, think about products that you buy, right? You like a product, and then all of a sudden it gets kind of crappy, right? No matter how much you want to go back and try that product again, that's always going to be in your mind, isn't it? You are a product in a way too. You're going to be selling what it is that you can sell at some point to an employer, right? You need to start protecting your brand now. So there are some things that you should probably start avoiding posting. You should also probably start thinking about cleaning up your social media as much as possible, right? So how many people are active on more than one social media platform?
Define active.
You define it for me.
I feel like if you post at least like once every couple months, that'd be active, you know?
Okay.
I think if you just have the app downloaded, like if you're like interacting with other people, you're active on it.
Okay.
Just because you're not posting doesn't mean you're not.
Even if you don't post anything, they can still see the posts that you've interacted with. That also shows what kind of person you are.
Like,
Yeah.
like on
Well,
Instagram.
it's suggestive, right? You could actually be following people that you don't agree with at all because you want to know what they're thinking. And I wouldn't necessarily want to make the association.
No, she's saying the things that you comment or post under.
Like
That can show the people that you're friends with what you, yeah.
Okay, that's it. I'm learning something too.
Yeah, like on Instagram, you can see things your friends have liked, and sometimes I look at that and I'm like, that's really interesting that you've liked that.
Yeah. I have political beliefs, I have religious beliefs, I have social beliefs, I have all kinds of things. None of those do I post on any of my social media. It's none of your business. Nobody else's business. I only post things on social media related to work that is positive. I don't go out and, the day that I get mad at my boss, go out and post, I can't believe. That's stupid, right? I don't do that. Don't do that. I do not post political things. I do not post religious things. I do not post, I do not share things that I think might be offensive. What I share is, I share my hobbies. I like to do a little woodworking stuff, so I'll post some of that kind of thing. I like cool, things about science, so if I find something cool about science, I'll post that. I will make some comments from time to time to family members that I probably shouldn't. I'm guilty of it as well. I've said to my sister on more than one occasion, I can't believe we're related. But I keep it such that I'm not completely showing my full hand of where I stand on something, right? She'll post something just outrageous. I'm like, I cannot believe you and I are related at all. But we are. And I love her dearly. But, I'm like, you probably shouldn't be posting that, Tracy. So, all of that to say, you need to keep your stuff more and more professional. Think of this as the first day of your professional career. Now, do you need to go back and take off the pictures from when you were in high school? Yeah, probably people will not forget that kind of stuff, right? But, keep it professional, right? So, what are some of the more professional platforms? Yeah. LinkedIn. How many of you have a LinkedIn profile? I highly encourage you all to develop a LinkedIn profile. I don't post on mine very often, but I have it. I follow it. I look at job opportunities. I look at opportunities for students. I see all of that kind of stuff. I absolutely keep my posts strictly business related on LinkedIn. I will share some of that on my Facebook page, but on my Facebook page is where I'm going to post the woodworking project I'm doing right now for my daughter. I'm posting, if me and my wife, cook an awesome steak and it looks beautiful, I'll take a picture of it and I'll say, aren't you jealous? That kind of stuff. I'll do that kind of stuff on Facebook. I will not do any of that on LinkedIn. I will not post hey, look at the steak I cooked. Don't do it on LinkedIn, right? So I want you to remember that you do have a personal life, and that does not need to be confused with your social life. Okay, and so there was the piece on U.S. News on social media that I put in there for you to read as well. Come on, open up. Some do's and don'ts for college students. So just kind of start thinking about that. I can tell you that I know of at least one case where a college student got in trouble for doing something. We won't say what it was. And the social media posts about that thing were what was used to get them expelled from a university. So keep all that in mind. Okay, it wasn't this university. Okay, so rest assured. But there are some definitely do's and don'ts for college students. What are some of the advantages of being active on social media? I've been kind of talking about the negative parts.
You can market yourself.
You can market yourself.
That was mostly networking.
Networking, absolutely.
Though some stuff isn't really true, you can kind of stay up to date on some things,
Okay.
just through different profiles if you follow the news or something.
Okay.
Seeing different people's perspectives.
Seeing different people's perspectives.
You can write about something that you would like, you just thinking about.
Okay.
Doing something new.
Yeah, you can get on TikTok and figure out how to put two things together, whatever, right? Yeah, you can learn a lot of little things.
I mean, like you said about checking people's, social media for negative things, you could see positive things that make you wanna hire them more.
Absolutely, yeah, I mean, we do. I mean, when we get job applications for a job that we have, one of the first things I do is I tell my office director, do a social media search, see what you can dig up.
I think it's like good for connecting people that have similar interests as you.
Okay, yeah, getting in groups of similar interests, yeah. The algorithm can kind of drive that in a negative way sometimes though, right? So you gotta be kind of careful about that.
Staying connected with people that like you don't live near.
Yeah, my wife and I, we live in South Mississippi now. My wife's family is in North Carolina. My family is in Oklahoma. We're 600 and some miles either way. And so it's nice to see when my nephews and nieces, hit a home run or whatever, and my sister posted something. I can't believe we're related now, right? I mean, so seeing those types of things is definitely a positive thing, right? But there are also some things that you need to keep in mind too. So let's say you're getting ready to go to medical school, or you're thinking about medical school, and you've on LinkedIn posted things that you've done for your service hours, right? You worked with Habitat for Humanity, Christian Services, whatever the case may be, right? And you post those activities that you did in a very professional manner. That can be a positive for you, right? You can build a network from that. You can get people who you never know, that might reach somebody who's on the decision committee, and they might, I saw that was a cool thing that they worked on. Do you think that influences people? Absolutely, it influences people. To think that what we do doesn't influence people is to be naive, right? We do influence people by what we do. So this was a short list of some do's and some don'ts for college students. Let's see, and it was, you can also have the audio of it, okay? Do make sure your feed best reflects you. You need to be careful about all those kinds of things, right? Do we need to be careful about what our friends post about us too? Absolutely, yeah. Now, we don't need to be paranoid, right? We don't need to be overly worried about all this stuff. But we do need to be cautious of it. When I was your age and we went to parties, the only thing I had to worry about was somebody had a disposable camera that took them at least 2 or 3 months to get all the pictures taken and then go get it developed and it sat in somebody's book somewhere, right? You all can go to a party, instantly somebody takes a picture, instantly it's posted, instantly it becomes viral, instantly your life changes. Maybe for the better, maybe for the worse, right? So just keep all of that in mind. All right. So that's all I really had to talk about for today. I hope you found some of this useful. I do want you all to think very seriously about making sure that you keep your professional persona on social media professional. So next week, we have the block party. That means we will have class, but it will be the block party. Okay? So I will give you, the way that this will work is I will give you come find me on the floor out here. I will give you your note card. I'm going to ask you to go around and at least talk to a couple of people at their posters, talk to faculty, get to know people. Just write down the name of that kind of stuff. That'll be your attendance. You do not need to stay the whole time. It's scheduled for 2 hours, but I do want you to stay for at least the full class time, okay? And if you want to stay a little bit after. But this is your opportunity to talk to faculty, to talk to staff, to talk to your advisor, to talk to other students, to get an idea of what kind of research goes on in the unit, what you might be able to get involved with. I'll have my poster up. I'll be by it, so you can come by and talk to me at least, make me feel loved a little bit. That'll be good. Any other questions about any of that? Who's our rep to the ACS? Is it? Any news on the block party?
Well, I talked to her about the theme. She said, or Marina said that it was a good idea to have kind of like the costume themes. We haven't really talked a whole lot about it.
Okay.
We haven't had a meeting about it either.
Okay.
So
Well, it'll be what it's gonna be. I got $500 to spend, so that's what we're gonna spend on it. There's gonna be food, I think they're gonna do some decorations. I'm gonna have, probably a box with something in it that you have to guess. Educated guess, hypothesis kind of guess. And then I'm thinking about getting a jar of something that you all have to try to figure out how many of that something are in there. And you all can spend some time, and there'll be a $10 gift card for each one of those to the winner or winners. So there'll be some games as well, if you will. So on your note card for today, I just need you to put your name and ID number on the front. And yeah, just turn it in for today. You got stuff to do online. Apologize about the Canvas stuff that happened this week. I did not count anybody's assignments as late.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'll be free in just a sec.
I was saying my room, I was like, well, I was gonna be productive today.
You too? Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, please.
Thank
And, the confirmational